Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon.
There's about to be a massive change on March 11th of 2024, and this one event could absolutely wreak havoc on the US economy as soon as the following day. In fact, this one single event is going to completely transform how our banks have been operating, and if you haven't been following this, or you don't know what's going on, please make sure you keep watching, because most people have no clue this is happening, and you need to be prepared so you're not taken by surprise like everyone else. The Bank Term Funding Program, according to federalreserve.gov, is coming to an end on March 11th of 2024, and from this point moving forward, things are going to change for everyday consumers like you and me. Did you know that starting back in March of 2020, banks were not required to hold any of your own money, meaning they could have a zero cash balance on your physical deposits, which is also referred to as fractional reserve banking. And of course, during this time period, banks were lending out tons of money to consumers on cars, houses, business loans, and personal loans, with many of these loans being issued on products and services that were 30 to 40% above sticker price at the time. Well, on March 11th, that all comes to an end. And when this happens, thousands of banks across the country will have the rug pulled out from underneath of them, and when this takes place, millions and millions of Americans are going to be directly impacted. Because as you can see, when this happens, banks are going to see higher rates to borrow money, effective immediately. And if the banks are going to see higher interest rates themselves, what does this mean for consumers? How can the general population see lower interest rates if the banks are going to be charged more themselves? They won't. I mean, the math just isn't there and it doesn't add up. And according to Yahoo Finance, when this change takes place, they anticipate that borrowing will essentially fall to zero. So what happens when consumers start getting denied from loans and they're not able to get access to credit? And not just consumers, but business owners in the public sector also. NewYorkFed.org recently reported that household credit card debt had reached a record high in Q4 of 2023 with a staggering debt balance of $17.5 trillion with delinquency rates on the rise. So when we currently have increasing insurance rates, property taxes, inflation, and wages that just haven't kept pace, it's no wonder we've seen consumers resort to putting their everyday living expenses on credit cards in order to float by. But what happens when this credit dries up? People can't afford to actually pay back their debt, and they're not able to get any more loans or credit. How does this play out in our economy? Then right before all of this is about to happen, we see billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Jamie Dimon, and Mark Zuckerberg pulling over $9 billion out of the markets so they can sit on a pile of cash before everything shifts. Now some say they're just timing their gains, but how likely is it that this is all just a coincidence that they all decided to pull out all at the same time, especially when we see Warren Buffett liquidating by the millions, the one man who literally made his fortune in the markets? Maybe they know something we don't. But what are your thoughts? What do you think will happen in the US economy when the credit dries up overnight, consumers struggle to get new loans, all while these elites are liquidating their stock portfolios to get their own money out of the market?
Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity.
Oh, leave out of Babylon.